What's up, everybody? It's your boy Joey Work from Pure Bets. I'm back. Countdown to MLB continues. 2 days. This Thursday, the season begins. And this is a division preview 6 of 6. So this is the last one. I got another guest, the infamous JT Hayes from Run Pure Sports side. Huge baseball guy and kills it in daily fantasy. What's up, JT? Thanks for joining. How you been, buddy?
Hey, what's going on? I've been really good. Basketball season winding down. Excited for opening day. Got my baseball mood shirt on, so ready to get into it. You picked an interesting division for me. I think one that's certainly overlooked in terms of people talking about this division, of where it sits even in the country, obviously in the middle of the country. So a couple of larger, I guess, larger middle market teams, but definitely some interesting teams for sure.
Absolutely. Yeah. So, basically, I think this division, possibly 4 of the 5 teams could come out victorious and win this division. But let's get right into it. So the first team let's talk about is the Brewers. So this team's made the playoffs in 3 straight years, franchise record. Question is, can they make it the 4th straight? I think not unless they improve their offense, basically starting with Christian Yelich, because after he signed that 9-year, $215 million deal, he basically collapsed at the plate last year. But he is 29, in his prime, so the future is bright. And the bright side is also they have good pitching. Brandon Woodruff led the majors in starts last year during the shortened season, 3.05 ERA, 0.99 whip, 11 strikeouts per 9. We're all career best. They have Corbin Burns as well. He worked with a sports psychologist in the offseason, and basically he finished with a 4.1 ERA, 2.11 ERA last year. So obviously 3, 4, 5. Adrian Hauser is looking like the 3. He has good stuff, but it didn't translate last year in a 5.30 ERA, 1-6 overall. Brett Anderson is looking like the number 4 starter, lefty. He won't miss many bats, but he keeps the ball down. And then Freddie Peralta is probably the number 5 starter. He just signed an extension with the team. He has good stuff, but there's reason to believe he might move to a long relief option. But then they also have Josh Limbo, who they signed last year from the KBO, who was disappointing in 2020, but he's going to start in the bullpen. The bullpen, obviously, you can't really get much better than this 1-2 punch. Josh Hader, Devin Williams, duo combined to win the last 3 NL Reliever of the Year awards. Williams has a high 90s fastball and a devastating changeup, and he burst onto the scene last year. 4-1, 0.33 ERA, 17 strikeouts per 9. So the rest of the bullpen has a mix of flamethrowers and mixed in with some soft throwers like Brett Suter and sidearm Eric Yardley. Looked like they will. So this look like for the offense, they're going to move Keston Hiura to first base with the arrival of Colton Wong. So obviously here's building an offensive star. He led the team 13 homers, 32 RBIs last year, but his batting average took a big drop, and he led the NL in strikeouts. Travis Shaw is now locking into the third base position with Luis Urias out, but he's a super utility man. He can play basically all infield positions. Lorenzo Cain, he returns after opting out 5 games into last year. He'll be 35, so there's a question mark there. They did add Jackie Bradley. He should help the team, especially on the offensive end. And then Daniel Vogelbath, Avisel Garcia will get bats off the bench. Omar Narvaez is locked in the catcher spot, but he doesn't really offer much on the offensive end. End of the day, the talent is there for them to compete in this division, especially considering I think it's a down year for this division. They're going to need a big bounce back from Yelich, which I mentioned, and some solid innings from the starters, basically to make it happen, I think. 83.5 is the team total. I have them, my projections have them winning 85 games, so probably not enough value, but plus 310 and win the division. And I personally think they probably win the division. I think they're the best team to win the division, so plus 310 is kind of nice to look at. What do you think about the Brewers?
Yeah, I think the pitching side is where they have obviously that strength. You look at the starting rotation. You talked about Woodruff, Burns. Get a bit of a drop off after that. Hauser was not very good last year. Gave up a lot of the long ball, but then that bullpen. So when you look at if Lindblom can do maybe a little bit better than last year, and Anderson is a 5th starter. That's what he is. It's what he's been for the last several years. He will surprise you every now and then because guys in Major League Baseball right now, they're used to hitting 97, 98, 100 miles an hour. And here comes Brett Anderson from the left side throwing this just absolutely the opposite of cheese. So it's interesting, but their offense is just not good enough. They have a lot of strikeouts. They had a lot of strikeouts in this offense, and I think they have a lot more strikeouts in this offense this year. Jackie Bradley is good in spurts, but I think if he's going to be one of the guys that they're going to depend on to keep their offense afloat, along with guys like Dan Vogelbach and Travis Shaw, and Colton Wong's a good little player. Colton Wong's not a middle-of-the-order guy, and that's why he moved on from St. Louis, because he wasn't going to get that opportunity in that offense. So I like the pitching, love the pitching, to be honest. I think it's something that I'm going to look to use every day. I really don't like this offense at all. I think it's going to be a lot worse than they expect it to be. So I think that 83.5 number is fair, if not optimistic, in this division.
I hear you. Yeah. So, I guess I'm probably a little higher than normal on the Brewers, even after last year, which they disappointed, but it is what it is. That's why I bring on a guest here. We like to compare and contrast our thoughts on it, because, the people like to hear somebody else's thoughts, and you definitely put a lot of good points in there, and I hear you, though. So let's move on. The next team that is basically the favorite by the books is the St. Louis Cardinals. They're even money to win the division. They made the playoffs last year and brought back almost the same team, plus the addition of, obviously, Nolan Arenado. The rotation starts with the NL Cy Young favorite, one of the NL Cy Young favorites in Jack Flaherty. He's only 25 years old, poised to drive the Cardinals engine basically to the playoffs. Miles Milikos, he will miss the first couple of weeks. He does have a shoulder injury, but this is a guy that lives in the zone. Carlos Martinez looks to be locked into a rotation spot as well. He did lower his velocity basically to limit his walks. They do have Kwang Young Kim, who's a name to look out for. I was particularly somewhat high on him last year coming over from the KBO, where he was named the best pitcher the year prior. He does have an excellent split-finger changeup. Daniel Ponce de Leon and John Grant will probably start games as well in the 4-5 spots. Full speed ahead for Jordan Hicks after opting out in 2020 to complete his Tommy John. Then they got Giovanni Gallios, Ryan Helsley thrived in late inning roles last year in the pen. Tyler Webb and Andrew Miller are the lone lefties out of the pen, and they're trying to take a step forward. Back last year, especially because of the 3-batter minimum rule that they employed last year, so it did take a little toll on both of them. Genesis Cabrera sports his 96-mile-an-hour slot sinker, and he should see quality innings out of the pen as well. So the bullpen does have the manpower to cover innings. We'll just see if it translates. So Colton Wong's gone. As I mentioned, Tommy Edman will slot into the everyday role. At shortstop, Paul DeJong has an athletic. He's very athletic, and he hit 30 home runs in 2019. Goldschmidt led the team in every key category last year, but a lack of runners ahead of him basically was a problem. And the Cardinals are the only team to get more walks than RBIs in the number 3 spot since 2011. So the addition of, obviously, Arenado should help this. He has launched at least 37 home runs in 5 of his last 6 seasons. But again, he did play in the friendly confines of Coors Field. He's still projected for about 30 home runs this year, 100 RBIs. The Cardinals' outfield last year batted .209. And they depend on the young names again, Dylan Carlson, Tyler O'Neill, Justin Williams, Harrison Bader. And then they re-signed, obviously, Yadier Molina, 38-year-old, who's locked into the catcher role. This team has a decent enough rotation where if the offense comes around, they do obviously have a chance to win the division, and they are the favorites at even money. Under-over set at 86.5 wins. I have them winning 82, so I do lean under, but probably not enough to bet it. JT, what do you think about the Cardinals?
Yeah, it seems like every team in this division has flaws in different areas, right? So when I look at, obviously, this pitching in the starting rotation is not nearly as strong as what I think the Brewers have. Could be if Martinez has a bounce-back year. Could be if Adam Wainwright continues to pitch like a 28-year-old instead of a 38, 39-year-old, whatever he is. They get a big boost in the bullpen with Hicks back. And I like some of the young talent, some of the young offensive talent, Dylan Carlson. I've always liked Tyler O'Neill. If these guys can learn to not be so splits heavy, right? If they learn to hit right-handed pitching, I think they can be dangerous. I personally would take the under on the Arenado props on the homers. I think it's just such a huge boost to play half your games in Coors Field. But that being said, he's the best defensive third baseman in the game. He's going to put the ball in play. Doesn't really strike out all that much. So I still think there's some meat on the bone there for Arenado to help this team. It's probably one of the better put together teams in the Central, and definitely think they're going to compete. And I think the I think the competition at the top is going to be pretty condensed. So I like that prop. If the number is 82, I would probably, or if the number is 86, I agree with you. I think they're probably more of an 85 win team. Need a little bit, might have to make some changes at the deadline, get some improvements to that rotation to go much more beyond that.
Yeah, so we're basically in sync on the Cardinals. We both lean under team total 85.5. Next on the list is the Cubs. So they enter 2021 basically in a transition period. Almost all the key members of the 2016 championship team have moved on, as well as the president of baseball operations, Theo Epstein. So, they haven't showed any. So basically, Kyle Hendricks is the number one starter now. He obviously doesn't throw anything overpowering, but he is very consistent as any NL starter in the NL Central. He uses superb command, obviously, of his 4 pitches. Then they do have the new arrival of Zach Davies, who was acquired in the Yu Darvish deal. He's as mediocre as it gets to me. Jake Arrieta, slated number 3 starter. He's on the decline, definitely. He's projected to have over a 5 ERA this year. Trevor Williams over from Pittsburgh, and Alec Mills and Alberto Alizé look to round out the rotation. Mills has an inability to miss bats, and Alizé has spotty control. So there's a lot of question marks in the rotation. But we'll go to the bullpen after a mechanical adjustment. Craig Kimbrell almost got back to his old self, I guess, midway through the year last year. He is in the final year of his contract, but age is holding him back. I'm pretty sure he's like 38 years old. Jason Adams is good as well, but he doesn't throw enough strikes. Rowan Wick gives up a lot of hard contract. They did add some low-cost pickups, Dan Weichler, Adam Chafflin, and Brandon Workman, and they'll all probably throw important innings out of the pen. Obviously, the offense, Javier Baez, clearly didn't take his bat on the field with him last year because he won defensive shortstop of the year, but he needs to rebound with that bat. Anthony Rizzo, Chris Bryant, obviously fixtures in the middle of the lineup. Like many other Cubs, they both had disappointing 2020s. They are projected for 25 homers apiece and 90 and 80 RBIs, respectively. Ian Happ is an athletic switch hitter with elite power, but his strikeout rate gets ugly when he expands his zone. Then they switch Schwarber with Jock Peterson, and he's tearing the ball apart in spring training. 372 in 17 games so far. David Bode has been named the starting second baseman, and he'll probably slot in the 1 hole. Wilson Contreras is the lead backstop option with obviously offensive potential. So the offense is good. The rotation has a lot of question marks. I personally want no part of any Cubs futures, really, especially preseason-wise. I'm going to take a wait-and-see approach on this team. Win total 78.5. My projections have the winning 79, so definitely not enough value there. And plus 500 to win the division. Both of those, I'm just going to take a wait-and-see approach. What are your thoughts about the Cubs, JT?
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what this team does. It seems like they're headed at least for a shorter-term rebuild. Anthony Rizzo, I believe within the last couple of days, cut off extension talks, said that, hey, there's been enough talk, certainly had enough time there. So I think that this is one of the teams that might be making some moves in the middle of the season, but not in a good way for Cubs fans, in a way to unload some of that money. They flirted with trading Chris Bryant last year, flirted with trading him over the winter. They're making a gamble. I read a couple of articles that they're making a gamble that they can be good enough without a starting 5 that throws a pitch over essentially 90 miles an hour, which I think is a very, very interesting gamble in today's game. They believe that vertical movement is a lot more important than velocity. I think they're probably going to be wrong. And I think it's going to be the beginning of a long couple of seasons in Chicago. They do have some talent. You mentioned Bote, obviously Wilson Contreras, Baez, of course, down year last year. You look for him to rebound. Jock, I think the Dodgers knew what Jock was. And I think it'll be interesting to see if they give him the opportunity to play every day and play against left-handers, to see if he can figure that out. He said he has the capability. Dave Roberts disagreed, obviously. So, but yeah, I think midseason you're going to see some moves from this team, and they really need to get off to a hot start if it's the type of moves to bring in talent to bolster that rotation, because they'll definitely need to do that if they want to win.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so we're basically in sync with the Cubs here. I am hearing that they're going to try to play Jock every day, but we'll see how long that lasts. Yeah,
it's his opportunity, right? And this is something that he wanted. He's been He said, not without saying the words, he's basically said, yeah, I can do what Cody Bellinger does, right? I can hit left-handers well enough to warrant being in that lineup every day. The Dodgers are, outside of Tampa Bay and maybe, I don't know, maybe the Oakland A's, probably the top three there in analytics and understanding what their players can and can't do. So if I was making a bet, I would bet on the Dodgers staff being right. But we'll see what happens.
Yeah, I hear you. That's a good point. All right, so let's move on to the Cincinnati Reds. They were last in the NL Central every year from 2015 to 2018. Then the management added free agents Mike Moustakas. They added Nick Castellanos, Shagi Akama, and these moves basically resulted in the team's first postseason appearance since 2013. And then they scored 0 runs in 22 innings versus the Braves and got sent home in 2 games. But Bauer left for the Dodgers. He will leave a hole in the rotation. Luis Castillo is an ace. He had the third lowest exit velocity in MLB last year. Sonny Gray is definitely a reliable number 2 starter, although he is currently sidelined with a back injury. He's ramping up to start in late April. It's looking like. Tyler Mahay put together the best season of his career last year. Wade Miley is the only lefty starter. He's averaging 88 miles an hour on his fastball, down 2 miles an hour from last year. If he can't improve that, he's going to get rocked. Even when it was up to 90 last year, he was getting hit. So number 5 starter looked like Michael Lorenzen, who's been a reliever almost his whole career. Plus, they do have options in Jeff Hoffman, possibly TJ Antone, and they'll shuffle between the rotation and the bullpen. So the bullpen, they did trade their closer for the last 4 years, and now Amir Garrett seems to be logically in line for the closer role. He's the only lefty in the pen as well. Lucas Sims, another good arm out of the pen, 2.45 ERA, only allowed 5 of 18 inherited runners to score. Sean Doolittle is now in the mix as well. But basically the bullpen thins out after that. I would expect them, if they're in the hunt, expect them to trade for somebody. The offense, Mike Moustakas signed a 4-year deal in the offseason, so he's basically locked into second base. He joined the Reds after playing only 47 pro games at second. So shortstop was a problem for this team last year, but it looks like they're moving Eugenio Suarez to shortstop this year. He's a beast, obviously, with the bat, projected for 40 homers, 105 RBIs. And then across the diamond is Joey Votto, who's now 37 years old, with his best years probably behind him. But their outfielders are very good. Jesse Winker, Nick Castellanos, and Nick Senzel. They're all phenomenal offensive players. The Reds rank 13th in the league in on-base percentage and runs scored, and 14th in RBIs from the outfield last year. Plus, they got Shogi Akama. Obviously, Aristoteles Aquino, I'm not exactly sure what happened to him. He just fell off real hard. He should be back in, at least off the bench and get some at-bats. And they did sign D. Gordon as well, who will probably steal some starts. Catcher Tucker Barnhart has a well below average bat, but he's an outstanding fielder, and he won his second Gold Glove in 2020. So this team was 4th in the league in homers, but 3rd to last in runs scored last year. 60% of the runs were scored on the long ball. So if they don't clean up that act and hit for a little bit of average, I can't see them having as much success in a 162-game season. Last year, 4 NL Central teams made the playoffs, but they went a combined 1-8 in the playoffs. Arguably the weakest division in baseball. I think this team probably floats around 500 this year. So I'm basically off any futures until they prove me otherwise. Win total set at 81.5. So that's saying they win 82 games and plus 350 to win the division. I'm going to take another wait and see with the Reds. What do you think about the Reds?
Yeah, I pretty much agree with everything you said. There's a lot of boom bust in this lineup, right? A lot of guys who are either going to go for extra bases or they're going to strike out or pop up. So it's tough. I like the young talent. I mean, Aquino is another one of those splits heavy guys, right? You throw a lefty at him and he's gonna match. He's gonna eat. Right-handers, he doesn't hit all that well. D. Gordon doesn't move the needle for me. I hope that he's more of a guy that they can bring in, pinch run, maybe give him a spot start, give a guy a day off here and there. But I do like Senzel. I do like Winker quite a bit. Naquin is a guy that I think with the Indians showed that he has some talent. Moustakas is a player that I like. Suarez is a player that I like. So there's some offensive talent. The pitching, once you get past Castillo and Sonny Gray, man, it's gonna be that kind of season where you're gonna have to score. You're gonna have to outscore your opponent 3 or 4 days a week, and that's really tough to do in this game. In this division, though, they might be able to do it. They might be able to do it enough to hang around. There are some sharp people that think that this team can surprise simply because of their offense. But I think with all these moving pieces on the defensive side, there certainly is a little bit of liability with pitching and defense.
Yeah, I hear you. Yeah, it's interesting to see exactly because I know I was basically high on them entering the short season last year, and I was disappointed. And a lot of people were high on them last year, but now I feel like they set back, and their expectations have lowered into basically, the middle of this division, maybe 500. So it's interesting to see what the Reds do this year. But last but not least, Pittsburgh Pirates. Team started 4-17 last year under first-year manager Derek Shelton, and they finished with the worst record in the majors, 19-41. That would translate to 51-111 in a normal year. They traded Jameson Taillon and Joe Musgrove in the offseason. It looks like Chad Kuhl will be the opening day starter. 2-3, 4.27 ERA, 11 games coming off Tommy John last year. Tyler Anderson is the number 2 starter, while righty Mitch Keller, who's still rookie eligible, was limited to 5 starts last year. He was impressive late in the season, though, throwing 6 scoreless versus the Cardinals and 5 against the Indians in his last 2 starts of the year. Then it looks like lefty Steven Brault, who had his best season. He went 1-3, 3.38 ERA last year, and JT Brubaker should win a spot out of camp in the rotation. Bullpen, Richard Rodriguez finished last year as a closer, and he looks like he could be lining up as a closer again this year. He has a 2.70 ERA in 24 games, saving 4 of 5 chances. Chris Stratton, Michael Felice, and Kyle Crick should all be in the line for late inning mix. Stratton has a 3.90 ERA last year in 27 games. Crick, stellar 1.59 ERA, and he held opponents to a 2.47 WOBA and struck out 31% of the batters he faced it. So Felice is healthy after only pitching 1 inning last year because of forearm, so that should help. Then they added Chasen Shreve and Trevor Cahill, who will be the lefties out of the pen. So for the offense, they did plan to have a 3-way competition in spring training for the starting shortstop role between Eric Gonzalez, Kevin Newman, and Cole Tucker. It looks like Newman is going to win the job. Adam Frazier will be the second baseman after hitting .230, 7 homers in 58 games last year. He was a Gold Glove finalist. Obviously, they have rookie Brian Hayes. He made an immediate impression in his major league debut, went on to post .376 batting average, 5 homers, and 24 games, and he's basically mashing in spring training. He's also considered an elite defender, finished 6th in NL Rookie of the Year award. The departure of Josh Bell opens up a spot for Colin Moran, who led the Pirates with 10 homers, 52 games last year. He'll be the everyday first baseman looking like. Brian Reynolds will play either left or center field as he looks to rebound from a disappointing season last year. Gregory Polanco returns after a terrible 2020 and breaking his wrist in winter ball in the Dominican Republic. The last outfield position looks like it's going to be Anthony Alford, who they claimed off waivers from Toronto, or prospect Jared Olivia, who made his major league debut last year. Obviously, Jacob Stallings is the starting catcher, was a Gold Glove finalist, but you won't get much out of the bat from him either. So the Pirates will probably be better than last season, but, that's not really hard to do. However, after finishing last in the majors in runs scored and 19th in runs allowed, it's difficult really to imagine this team making a big jump. Win total set at 58.5 games is really low. I think it's either the lowest or second lowest in MLB. That's saying they're going to lose 100 games. They very much could do that, but I'm not going to back this team either. Or my projections have them winning 62 games, which are based 3 games higher. But I don't have a strong lean here, and I don't like to back a team with this many question marks and that performed this bad the year before. So, what do you think about the Pirates?
They were building. It's absolutely not a secret. They trade Josh Bell in the offseason. And I think they had the 7th pick in the draft last year. They've got the top pick this year. Maybe they'll get to introduce Jack Leiter into this organization. They've got some talent both on the major league roster, and they've got a lot of talent in the minor league. So there's hope on the horizon here. And, last year in DFS, I probably played the Pirates almost as much as anybody else, if not more, just because of the pricing and the fact that I like some of their talent. I like Brian Hayes a lot. I think he's going to be an absolute superstar in the league. He's phenomenal. I like Frazier. Frazier has had an outstanding spring. Every time you turn around, Frazier is either hitting a home run or getting extra bases. All these guys have speed too. Newman has speed. Reynolds has big speed. Brian Hayes has speed. You mentioned Stallings being a very good defensive catcher for the pitchers that they're going to groom. Yeah, the starting rotation is not a rotation that is going to shut opponents down on most nights. But the bullpen last year did mature quite a bit, and they actually had a better bullpen towards the end of the season than a lot of the other teams. So I think there's some talent here. I agree with you. I think they're fine, honestly, if they lose 90 to 100 games. I think they want to show that these kids are taking the next step. I think they'd like to see if you could give them the option of surprising and getting a wild card or showing a big jump in development for guys like Hayes and Frazier and Newman. I think they'd take that in a heartbeat. So they're a fun team to watch, though. The offense, they play hard, and there is some talent there. But I think on the major league level, it's going to be another couple of years.
Yeah, I agree. Obviously, it's hard to rebuild in 162 games. It's really hard to rebuild in 1 year unless, you have the payroll to do it. And Pirates are not looking to spend money, so it's going to be, a couple-year rebuild for them. But appreciate it. Appreciate you joining me, JT. Any final parting words for you before we get out of here?
Yeah, no, I think it's going to be I think this is going to be a division where I think maybe the division winner comes out, and that's about it over a long regular season.
Yeah, I hear you. It'll probably be different than last year. Obviously, they had the expanded playoffs last year, so extra teams got out. Now they're going back to the normal. And you're right. It will probably only be the division winner. I wouldn't be surprised to see, no wild card out of this division. So that's a good point. But appreciate everybody hanging out. Hit the like button before you bounce. I'll be back tomorrow with Holden and JJ just to do future bets for all of MLB season. They'll be on this Run Pure Bets YouTube channel. So if you're not subscribed yet, hit the subscribe button. Obviously, you could join before baseball season, which is Thursday. I'll be having plays every day on the sheet, on our official play sheet, runpurebets.com. You can use promo code BETS25 off to get 25% off. Baseball starts Thursday, so you're not going to want to miss out on the money train. Thanks for joining us. We're out. Peace.